Well, greetings friends and welcome back, and welcome to the surface of Mercury, where the weather is always terrible. We are looking today at the Federal Dropship, so let's get into it. Well, here we are in our normal view, parked outside of Earlich City on Mercury. We'll fly there in a second. There's a pretty cool feature which can take you there automatically, which you may or may not know about. For the time being, we'll say good morning to Commander Headless, being all headless as normal, and we'll start having a quick look around. Now, this is the cheapest of the three Federal ships, and it's the first one that I bought. Super excited when I bought it, and I really enjoyed it, despite some of its limitations. So here's Commander Headless parked on her normal immovable plinth with a raised platform in the center there. Behind her is the remlock box, which we have looked in before, but we may as well look at it again. Why not, hey? So here's the remlock box that we have seen before. Its dimensions are the same as previous. As we can see, there's 3 seatbelts, but the edge one here on the left is not actually holding it. It's floating quite some distance away from the remlock box itself. And inside, there is nothing as per normal. Now, there is still a huge cubbyhole in the back there, which, just like with the other ships, we can get into and have a bit of a veg out. On the sides of the cockpit here, we have our chicken noodle soup machines, same on both sides, and the same sort of layout of the cockpit itself. Obviously, it follows the Federal ship kind of layout. You can see that the inlay on this one is mostly grey-green, though, rather than red, as we've seen in the other ships. Now, the front projector here is about 60 centimeters as per normal, but you can see that uniquely here we are parked on a planet's surface. And if I get down low to it, it kind of craps itself, but you can see that the ship is definitely on the planet's surface, and you can see a small representation of the terrain that surrounds the ship. But it really doesn't like me being very close to it, and it kind of glitches out all the time. Interestingly as well, you can see the representation of the ship here, which is about that big, is actually the same as the representation of the ship in this plate-sized holographic projection. Whether that's interesting or not, I don't know, but there it is. Here we can also see Earlich City represented in all its glory in another disc-shaped holoprojection, and again about the size of a small dinner plate. The heads-up display showing the distances and speeds on the ground is way far out in front of the ship itself. We're talking probably a good probably about 10 to 12 meters away in front of the ship itself, which makes for an interesting perspective when you're sort of walking back through it and off to the side. It is projecting through the hard parts of the cockpit itself, which is a bit strange, but that's obviously the way they've designed to do it. From the co-pilot's chair, we can see that they have the same sort of projector as in the other Federal ships, and we can also see the same problem as the previous Federal ships, and that is this giant bar that comes across their legs, which would be either prohibitive or extremely uncomfortable, and I'm not sure why it's there, other than to continue my theory from last time, which is that it was designed to be a thing that you would hold on to while you're standing here before the second commanders were actually instilled in multi-crew. But from the co-pilot's vantage point, you can see they have a really nice view out, especially towards the left here, and out the front and towards the right as well. So it's a really nice place to be, actually. Now, here's the fun thing that we're going to do. If you request docking and you're landed on a planetary surface within 7.5 kilometers of a thing, the ship will actually take off and take you there automatically, which is pretty awesome. So you can see that without me doing anything, it's actually taking off and flying us over to Earlich City, which is kind of cool. I mean, it's a bit gimmicky. I'm not sure if you'd ever use it, but I've used it several times if I've done a short distance recon in the Scarab. And you can see, I guess, what it would be like to be a passenger while Commander Headful, who's always situated down there, is actually, I guess, inverted commas, flying in towards the landing pad, which is kind of cool. And if we look through the sides of the ship, we can see some of the hard points sticking out in all sorts of different directions as they do in the Federal gunship. The main one being directly below us, just out the back of that D1 hatch. And there, of course, you can see the sewing machine landing gear coming down as we're heading down towards the landing pad itself, which looks pretty cool. And again, you get to watch this just happen automatically, which for me doing these videos is certainly a saving grace. Now, if we stand outside the Federal Dropship itself, you can see it's got a very large and imposing front, and I don't know if I'll actually be able to get to the edges, but There's one edge there, and it would run all the way along this length here, and there's the other corner over there. So I'm sure I was off camera for most of that, but it's an extremely large and imposing kind of cockpit shape. Now, we don't actually have any cameras that let me go up those stairs and into the rear, so unfortunately you'll have to have a look at one of the other videos that I've made of the Federal ships to see that. So instead, I wanted to use this opportunity to address how I think that they could actually achieve doing space legs. So my thought about this is, given that there's currently two different ships that exist at all times, there's the interior version that we're in now, and there's the exterior version that exists when you go outside, then why not simply create a third version that when you go through those doors, that basically that other version just loads in. So yes, they could do it without having to do the entire interior of the ship, which, as you know, would be a huge amount of work by now because there are so many janky things, things moving through each other, landing gear, going through elevators and stuff. So my theory is, given that the exterior and interior ships exist in the same space and load in at the same time, they could simply just make another version in order to address the space legs scenario. So again, I appreciate that that was a fairly short look at the Federal dropship, but it is, for all intents and purposes, unfortunately, a carbon copy of some of the other ships. But I think that I'm probably onto something with regards to how they're going to implement space legs, because rendering the interior and making it a smooth transition through those elevator doors, I don't know if that's really possible. So I imagine that you would walk up to the doors, hit the button, blank screen for an instant, and then you would find yourself inside the rear of the ships, which they could then model. So that's probably going to be the only way that they're going to actually achieve it. Let me know what you think in the comments, if you think that that's a reasonable solution or whether you think that that's a dumb idea. And I guess we'll find out at some point when they actually release Space Legs in its entirety. So that's it for me for today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all the things. And I'll see you in the black. Fly safe, Commanders.